If you ever hurt her, I'll borrow some silver weapons from my brother. Why do you think I'd ever hurt Celia? You're a werewolf. Violence is in your blood. Love Bite feels like a recession indicator. Vampires versus werewolves, cliche dialogue, Wattpad, all somehow taking place in high school. Very 2000s. But the thing is, this is actually a BL. Seeing that it's been #1 on the popular tab on Webtoon for a while and just hearing about it time and time again, I was so curious what this is going to be about. So let's talk about Love Bite. I must say, thank God this isn't like Twilight, because I really didn't want to sit here and wonder why some 350-year-old wants to still be in high school. This story starts off with Kieran, who looks the proper age to be in high school, is mourning the 10th anniversary of his mother's death and is faced with a heavy decision as he ages. But still in school, he craves blood and something is just setting him off this day. And on walks in the character Mason Kane, the obvious love interest, who's obviously a werewolf, and the whole scene just has such an interesting parallel, a very familiar shot. When Mason tries to make friends with him, Kieran wants absolutely nothing to do with him and they're instantly fighting. Now, in this world, wolves and vampires have been at odds for years and had made a pact at some point after a major war. Their resolve was not hurting humans, but the thing is, the whole war literally started because a werewolf betrayed a vampire. Okay, I mean, I say let them kill each other, but I don't know, it doesn't really... it's not clicking. But vampires are supposed to make a choice at some age to either live in the night or some other option. But Kieran, the main character, has not yet decided yet because he has a best friend that's human, Celia, who knows he's a vampire, and Celia is more welcoming to this other character, Mason Kane. After finding out they have multiple classes together in theater, Mason takes the opportunity to join Celia and Kieran for the group project. Celia is open to it, Kieran is not. When they get to work together, Kieran and Mason begin to fight over what's correct in Shakespeare and are calling each other petty names, but Kieran's hunger for blood gets so strong he almost bites him. But when his friend makes him pull back and realizes what he's almost done, Mason is actually thinking he must be completely into him, which could be a juxtaposition. Kieran flees and has a close encounter with a werewolf and he's thrown off. Following day, his best friend asks him if he's gay, to which he doesn't have a definitive answer. She reveals that Mason wanted to know and Kieran thinks this was his way of trying to make fun of him, so his instinct is to go ahead and say yes to his face. And he starts flirting and Mason seems really into it, but by the end of the joke, Kieran says he isn't his type, but thinks to himself in his head that he looks pretty when he blushes. But later on, Celia is opening up the conversation to say she's interested in Mason. Now this is awkward. Last time I checked in the rules of a stereotypical BL, you're supposed to be the supportive, annoying friend. You're off script. I'm joking, but what they actually do with her is a little worse. But they begin this adventure of flirting and being together, but Mason is just using this as an opportunity to get under Kieran's skin. Time passes, events passes, and Kieran isolates himself from him and dreams of just sucking his blood. When Mason asks Celia to celebrate and she was thinking of Kieran, he says he wouldn't want to go on a date with them, and this sends Kieran into overdrive. He thinks he's gonna break her heart. Sorta, kinda, yes. Chasing after Mason in a locker room, they begin to argue about his intentions, but Mason blurts out the truth that he's using her to get back at him. And when Kieran snaps and shoves him, Mason hits him. They're both confused. Why is he alive? How did he hurt me? And when they start to really fight, out of nowhere, Mason pulls him in for a kiss. And they begin to make out for like 65% of the entire episode. This is coming from a Wattpad story, so I guess something random like this was bound to happen. Kieran gets too into it and accidentally bites him, to which he pulls back and runs away. Running into Celia, he tells her that Mason is using her, but she instantly goes off on him, calling him conceited and that everything has to be about him. You took your man too, but how her character has been going, I'm quite surprised. When Kieran returns to his brother and father, he thinks they can read his mind, but they approach him because of werewolves moving into their neighborhood, and the father wants to make a peace treaty. His brother is hesitant, but also wants Kieran to turn to the other side. Torn between this, he makes a pact with his brother to go along with it if he faces his monsters. And the following chapter, the werewolf family is Mason's family. Awkward. Love Bite, as mentioned earlier, is adapted from a Wattpad, so I didn't expect too much in the creative writing department. I did treat this as a light read. It's something with supernatural, something a little bit corny, all in a BL. I think it tackles vampire lore in a different way than most. There isn't a stopping point of aging. They're treated like humans by aging. They aren't weak to sunlight, but you get a choice by a certain age. I don't want to say it's confusing by that logic, but there's probably more to it. It's an enemies to lover that's obviously going to go in a predictable family war. They're going to fall in love and their family's going to duke it out. Oh my god, choose me or your family. I just have a feeling. But if that's something you would be interested in, totally check it out.